You are watching and listening to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. That's Emil Calomino. I'm Chad Wilson, and we are back with you again. This is a part 2 of our super league that we created for college football. And Emil, this ended up being our best podcast ever in terms of numbers. If you're into that kind of thing, our most widely watched Two Chumps Football Podcast. I guess people are, the word I might want to use is just as upset about the way college football is in terms of just the disorganization of the conferences. Stanford is in the ACC. That's crazy. So I think our idea here, though some people had something to say about it, it did generate enough discussion. Yes. And it was good to see that.
You know what? I'm going to pat us on the back. And there's tape out there that people can find. It never goes away. That we've been ahead on this subject for at least 5 years, because a long time ago, when this was just starting to occur, they were talking NIL, we started seeing the writing on the wall. Listen, this is going to turn into what essentially is a semi-pro league, and it is right now. And then we've said this is going to become a super conference. And they're talking, like the talk is going in that direction now. And I think it's going to happen sooner than later. Will they use a plan like ours? I don't know. But I think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be at the tip of the spear on this in creating a super conference.
I've just noticed, when they talk about stuff enough, it eventually happens. They kept talking about expanding the play, about having a playoff system. It happened. They kept talking about expanding the playoffs, and it happened. So, and a lot of these other things happened. Started talking about a transfer portal. They kept talking about it, and it happened. If they're continuing to talk about a super league, it's going to happen. It is, Emil, in their best interest, and I'm not just saying this to be biased. It's in their best interest to now take this time to create something that resembles the National Football League. I think it's widely known and accepted by most sports fans, not even people that are just fans of the NFL. They don't even have to be a fan of the NFL. Just widely accepted that is the best playoff system that we have existing in American sports right now. And so what we've put together here is a 48-team Super League, and it has 6 teams in each division, 8 divisions. So, quite nicely divided up there. 48's a nice number for this. We're not going to dive back into where everyone is. We'll post a graphic up here and you can see where we put each team, or you are welcome to hit the link and watch last week's show or our last show 2 weeks ago, where we went in depth about this, and we can, you can get even some of the logic as to why some teams were in some divisions and, why other teams were in some divisions, and why some teams just didn't make it into our 48-team Super League. So we're not going to run through all of that again. However, part 2 of this is to, now that we have this league formed, Emil, we do need to have some important guidelines here. There are a lot of things going on in college football that people would like to see either fixed, abolished. And of course, if we created a 48-team league, we cut several schools out of this thing, and some people might not be happy about it. But we told you last time that there may be ways for your school to get back into this thing, and we will explain that.
Let's break the numbers down. I think we looked it up last show. What were we at? 133, I think, was the number of.
Correct.
Would be considered Division I, as we like to say.
Yes.
So there's 85 teams in the subdivision, okay?
Yes.
And that's not subdivision for you folks out there. It's not Villanova, Princeton. This is subdivision of teams that you're going to know. Teams like Wake Forest, okay?
Exactly. And for some of you that may have had a problem with some of the teams that we left out, I can assure you right now the teams that we left out don't really have a snowball's chance in hell of ever climbing to the current mountain that we have, that is FBS football. I don't see a situation where those teams would win a national championship. I think it'd be hard for those teams to get themselves into a playoff, and even have themselves in a position. Just running through the names really quick: Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Stanford, Baylor, Kansas, Purdue, Oregon State, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Northwestern, Houston. Emil, have I named a team that has been in the playoff since we've had a playoff?
Well, no, you haven't even named a team probably, if I'm thinking real hard here, that's won a national championship in the last 60 years. I mean, Syracuse, you know.
Right. So here's my, if you're a Syracuse alum, if you've got your Oregon State sweatshirt on watching this and you're ready to punch Emil and I in the nose, I would say this to you. When you go down to the subdivision, and I wouldn't even call it that, but whatever name you want to put on the 85 teams that are not a part of this 48-team league, you are now creating a situation where those teams that I named and others that we didn't bring up, I just named some prominent names, some high-profile names, if you would, that didn't make it into the 48-team league. Those teams now have a chance to win something. They have a chance to win a league, which would be that 85-team league. Syracuse becomes a more powerful team in their section of college football because now all of these other monsters, heavy spenders, whatever you want to call them, heavy recruiters, are now up in this 48-team league, and now you have a chance to call yourself a champion.
Right, and look at it. There's professional football. We have the USFL in the spring. We don't pretend that the best USFL team is going to play an NFL team. So why pretend here? I think college football, and I'm staying on topic here, one of the things that's hurt change in college football over the years, they've made themselves prisoners. And what I mean by that is for years they said, oh, we can't have a playoff because of the bowl games. Well, wait. You're not running the bowl games. A bunch of guys like us are running a bowl game in Miami.
Right.
Why are you holding yourself prisoner to the bowl games? Who cares? So then they finally got that out of their system and they said, okay, we'll rotate your bowls and the Rose Bowl, blah, 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 which I still don't even understand. I get the tradition, but the tradition's shot. Who cares if you call it the Rose Bowl?
Right.
Someone probably on the take, and there's a bunch of...
Oh, well, I'm sure the folks in Los Angeles... and all the people that have their hands in this getting some kind of money out of it.
That's my point.
They might beg to differ.
But why should college football care? And here's what they've got to get to the right league. The SEC and the Big Ten are going to come together because right now that's where all the money and power resides, right? They've got to get rid of the thought of we have to keep the SEC and the Big Ten. Because I'm not here to offend anybody, but I'm going to be honest. Nobody gives a rat's rear end if Vanderbilt is in the Super League. Nobody cares if Northwestern is in the Super League.
They don't, and if you have the strange case of one year where the team happens to be doing something like what Vanderbilt did this year, and they were still light years away from being a factor at all. They were an annoyance to some of teams in the SEC that they normally weren't an annoyance to. It was usually a blowout. Well, now, you did beat Alabama. But for all your beating of Alabama, you were nowhere near the playoff and a chance to win it all. You would now have that chance. So if Vanderbilt, 2024 Vanderbilt, was part of the 85-team schools league division, they would have a chance. And whatever playoff system or way they go about crowning a champion for that 85-team league, I think Vanderbilt would have had some kind of a say-so in it this year, and I think that's great for a school like Vanderbilt.
Listen, I went to a Jesuit university with 4,000 undergrad students. All their sports are Division III, okay? Wake Forest has 4,000 undergrad students. I think 4,400 or something like that. Go look it up, but somewhere in there. They're playing Division I football.
Right.
Literally, Wake Forest is the size of this. Of the university I went to, and Wake Forest, like the school I went to, is a really good academic school. So my point is, now you can win something, Wake Forest, because you're not winning anything in this league we set up.
No, we realigned the league, and if we made some kind of concessions for some of these teams, maybe we made the league a little bigger. We added, I guess, another 8, and we made it 56.
Yeah,
we decided to go that route. Just to include these teams, you're still going to be in the same situation, man. You're still going to be at the bottom. You're still going to be fighting to try and keep your head above water. And to be honest, a lot of these divisions that we made are highly competitive. So the chances that you're a bottom feeder probably is even more so.
And let me do some good TV radio here. I'm going to tease it. Even if we put you in there, when you hear the rules, you're still going to have some problems staying, okay?
Yeah, no doubt.
before we get to that, you said we had some comments, so I would love to hear them. I haven't heard them yet, so these should be interesting.
Yeah, I just came up with the idea here of making a sample schedule here for my school, based on, some of the rules that we set up. And I just want to be able to read it off to fans and have them just get an idea of what it would be like, what a schedule would be like, and what fun it would be to have a schedule like this if you were, if this league actually did happen. So I'm 2 teams away here. Let me finish this and then we'll talk about it. All right, good. I wanted to make one for USC, but that would be rather distracting. All right, so let's talk about some of the comments that were made here that I found interesting. One guy said, Emil, someone's going to have to tell Coach Cignetti that he needs to find another job because I think, cut Indiana out of this deal.
Coach, Indiana's a basketball school. I commend everything you did last year in getting Indiana into the playoff and an 11-2 season. If you might convince me if you do that 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row, but probably not happening.
Sure, and to be honest, Coach Cignetti, if you did that great of a job, I'm sure one of these other teams in this 48-team league will come looking for you. And I don't want to go too deep into that, Emil, because
they may be coming soon anyway.
Exactly, because we're going to explain some of what we want to do. Here's another one. I know your plan isn't making any consideration for non-football sports or academics, and you probably want to keep financial considerations out of the equation. However, I will point out, using the market valuations published by CNBC, you excluded number 23 Stanford, number 26 Duke, 28 Indiana, 37 Purdue, number 38 Kansas, number 39 Vanderbilt, number 44 Mississippi State, 45 Baylor, 46 Virginia, and 48 Georgia Tech. This is about football. So I'm glad CNBC puts out these market valuations. They can go be great in that 85-team league. On a football field, for all their valuation, these schools just don't come anywhere close to competing for national championships, getting in the playoffs.
Now, remember, the NCAA doesn't include, the NCAA doesn't include football in their championships because they don't officially award it, okay? So what I'm going to tell you is already excluding 11 national championships for USC, okay? Top 3 schools, national championships overall, Stanford, UCLA, USC. They're the only 3 over 100, okay? Like Oklahoma State and Penn State and Texas are down in the mid-50s, NCAA championships. Most men's championships, USC, okay, easily. And that doesn't include football, mind you. Stanford has the most women. So what I'm saying to our listener is a lot of Stanford's value is probably derived from their tremendous female sports program.
That has nothing to do with football.
And they're not playing football last I checked. At least not this football.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get it with the valuations, but quite frankly, that is not going to really factor in here for us. I know that I said that about, some of these teams don't really have a snowball's chance in hell of competing for a national championship. Some of the teams that we have included in our 48-team Super League also fit into that category. However, football-wise, I think they stand above these teams that have been left out, and they also fit well into a regional division of teams that made sense.
And let me give an example, and I'm not picking on them because they're a rival. I'm using them as an example actually to prop them up. There's people that would look at this and say, UCLA's football program for the last 25 years has generally been crap. Yeah, you can argue that. They've also won a national championship in football. They're in the top 20, I know, in NFL draft picks. Okay, so what I'm saying is the things that you would measure a successful football program beyond just championships and recency bias, they're still producing NFL players at UCLA.
Yeah, national championships, draft picks, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
You know,
you can argue their recent history as well. They've had a lot of 5-7, 6-6 seasons. UCLA is a program that could win a national championship if things lined up. They got the right coach. They've got the money. They've got the alumni base. So there's no reason you'd ever exclude a program like that.
One last thing on this is that a lot of these teams that we've put in here who recently have not been on fire last 10 years, or like a UCLA last 20, maybe 25 years. If you put them into a situation like this, where they're in they're separated by conferences, basically, and you put them into shorter, smaller divisions of 6 teams, and it's an NFL type of feel, they have demonstrated that they have an ability in an atmosphere like that to raise things up and now get back to where they were. For some of these teams, what are we considering getting back to where you were? Vanderbilt, what were you ever? Northwestern, what were you ever? A couple of upset years, but what were you ever? In terms.
What we're really talking about is siloing the competition. In other words, maybe this isn't a great example. I want to become a better basketball player, right? So I can play my 12-year-old nephew. Probably not going to get any better, right?
Sure.
Or I can play you, and if you're a lot better than me, you might drag me around the court for a couple of weeks, but I have to get better because otherwise I'm going to keep getting dragged around the court.
Or die, That's just the way that it's going to go. So, I feel you, but I'm not going to listen to the violin for some of these schools. Final comment. Some of your divisions are quite disparate in their power levels and market valuations. This individual's hung up on market valuations.
Oh, it's the same person. We have some. What do we have, a CPA on this or a financial?
I mean, he did. Look, he leaned that far into this podcast, so God bless him.
Thank you.
The Mountain Division and the Plains Division are incredibly soft when compared with the South and North, for example. And while most do contain 1 or 2 high-power programs at the top, many are diluted with some very weak sauce at the bottom. Let me take this one. We watch an NFL every year where there's an AFC South and of late an NFC South, and this happens at that level. They go in turns, So
wait, can I interject? Because you're right, but let me throw in one extra thing you're not even considering, and I know where you're going with this. This is a sport, unlike the NFL, where you recruit. So here's what I suspect will happen. Let's take a Plains division, which, if you look at it, is kind of weak. We had Iowa, Iowa State, Missouri, Kentucky, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. Well, over time, in the first couple of years, one of those teams, other than Notre Dame, might win that division. Now, let's say it's Iowa or Iowa State. Kids in that region who were leaving, saying, hey, Iowa won the last 2 Plains Division championships.
Right?
I'm not leaving. I don't need to go down to Georgia. I got a winning school right here. You're going to start to see the unintended consequences of these divisions where you win a division, you get a name for yourself.
Yes, Emil, because I'm not in a conference with 17, 18 teams.
Right.
I'm in a division here, and my competition is 5 other schools.
Right.
So we're giving you like 2 more chances to be a champion. We are the Plains champion. We're the National League Plains Division champions. We can win our conference. Then we can go we could be the conference champions,
right,
like an AFC champion, and then we can be the overall champion. Right now it stands in Iowa. They're not winning the Big Ten. They have no chance in winning the Big Ten.
Well,
really.
Let's take him. Let's go through the South Division real quick because he's saying how strong it is. Okay, Florida appears to be on their way back. Certainly not a power they were right now. Auburn, trash right now. Alabama, good. Florida State, trash. Georgia, good. Miami on their way back, but not what they were. So, yeah, I mean, on paper.
It's not all demons in that division.
Yeah.
So I think we've, mixed this thing up pretty good. I think he also mentioned the North, where he feels like, I guess, Ohio State would keep winning that. Is that what he said?
Michigan, but what's the rest of the North?
No, he said the Mountain Division. I think a Mountain Division of Colorado, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Utah, BYU, and Kansas State is being widely undersold.
Well, I mean, let's look at that. Deion's got Colorado on the way up. Oklahoma State, until last year, was winning 9 and 10 games, 4 and 5
Exactly.
games with the mullet. Nebraska appears to be on the right trajectory.
And they have a good coach.
Utah's got a great coach. BYU's got 30-year-old guys playing. I mean, what the hell?
And they were badass last year, and Kansas State has been holding their own. So I don't know what this guy's talking about. Before we jump into our rules that we have to go along with what we've created here, I just quickly created a Miami schedule, and I didn't put a home and away. I just put a list of teams that you would play in this given season. You know what I'm actually gonna do here, Emil? Since AI is a big thing, I'm gonna punch all of this in to ChatGPT and see if ChatGPT can come up with schedules for every one of these teams. I'm going to put that to work on ChatGPT.
I'm going to warn you on a side note, because you know how I like to play with these things. The other day I asked ChatGPT, how many world titles have the Los Angeles Dodgers won? It came back and gave me 7, and it named the years. And I said, oh, I thought they won in 2024. And ChatGPT said, oh, I'm sorry. I've excluded the 2024 World Championship. The Dodgers have won 8. So don't always trust ChatGPT.
All right, well, look, let me say this. Sometimes I think ChatGPT's data cuts off at 2022 or 2023. That's number one. Number two is if you're asking them on historical stuff, you can get errors. But on things like this, processing something like this, I think they'll be pretty damn good.
Oh no, they want to listen. It's
ChatGPT said I died of COVID. By the way,
you did you?
It did. It said I did.
You look very alive on this podcast. I want to congratulate you.
Listen, if that's what happened, man, it's time for me to start a couple churches up and let people know that I'm here now. But anyway, here's a list of teams because of how we have decided that we're going to do this, and we'll get deep into this. This is what a Miami schedule, if this was something that we did for 2025, this is the lineup of teams that you would be playing. You'd have a game against Georgia, Colorado, Auburn, Nebraska, Utah, Alabama, Kansas State, Florida, Oklahoma State, BYU, Kansas State, and you could end the year at Florida State or, against Florida State. That is, you play everyone in your division, and then you go and you play all the teams in another division. Emil, listen to that lineup.
I know. Is there a little bit more excitement for a Miami fan than going to see them play Wolford? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, well, okay. Even a Wake Forest, who's in your conference, who's lining up for that? Duke came here. We played them at noon, I think.
Virginia.
We're not getting fired up for that. But, man, Georgia, Colorado, Auburn, Nebraska, Utah, Alabama, Kansas State, Florida, that's a season to remember. And that's a little bit closer to what things were like when we were independents and we could play whoever we wanted.
And it also, in this setup, you're going to have teams that make the playoffs that are 8-4. You can lose games just like the NFL.
Yeah, so have no fear over this being a tough schedule. It's about winning your division or getting into that wild card, because that's how we set this up. And if you played a schedule like this, you're going to be tougher at the end of the year, right? You're going to use your 85 scholarships, most likely, but you're going to be tougher and ready at the end of the year for a playoff run, similar to kind of what we saw out of the Washington Commanders this year. You just need to be ready at the end of the year for the second season. So this would make such an exciting
I like that schedule that you did. You did that real quick, huh?
Hey everyone, a quick break to let you know about an amazing offer from Bovada. Right now, they're offering a crypto bonus of up to 75% on your first deposit when you use crypto to fund your account. That's a huge bonus to kickstart your betting experience. All you need to do is click on the link in the description below, sign up for an account, make your first deposit using crypto, and then use our special code BTCSWB750 to claim your bonus. Whether you're betting on the NCAA tournament, Major League Baseball, the NFL, or any other sport, Bovada has everything you need with secure transactions, fast payouts, and the best odds. Don't miss out on the incredible offer. Click on the link below and sign up now using the code BTCSWB750 and start betting with Bovada today. As always, remember to gamble responsibly and enjoy the game.
Yeah, I typed that up real quick.
That was good. I like that. Oh well,
Right.
let's start breaking down some rules. We can hash out, some of the nuance. I'll throw a rule out. Tell me where you disagree with it, don't like it, whatever, and we'll try to tweak these rules. So the first,
Good, you're a rules guy, so go ahead and drop it on.
I'm a rules guy. So the first rule I had, and Chad knows this. Chad and I are big baseball fans, and the thing I don't like about baseball is they keep talking about the wrong end of the spending equation. The players are smart in baseball. They're never going to have a salary cap because salary caps are meant to keep rich people from spending their money. Because if we both have money and there's one Lamborghini and I say I'll pay you $450 and he says $500, before you know it, somebody bought a $500,000 or $400,000 car for $1 million because that's what rich people do. So what I've always said is the problem with baseball, you've got to have a spending floor. For you poor folks where Chad lives in Miami, you're going to roll out a AAA team this year. Okay, your total payroll is $85 million. That's insane.
You tore down the Orange Bowl for this.
We've got cornerbacks in the NFL that are making $60 million a year. The entire 26-man of the Miami Marlins is 86.
By the way, Emil did mention there's not a salary cap in Major League Baseball. There is one in the NFL, and the whole premise is that you are, making it somewhat equitable and giving all the teams a chance. Let me read off the World Series champions since 2010. San Francisco Giants, St. Louis Cardinals, San Francisco Giants, Boston Red Sox, San Francisco Giants, Kansas City Royals, Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox, Washington Nationals, Los Angeles Dodgers, Atlanta Braves, Houston Astros, Texas Rangers, Los Angeles Dodgers. Emil, I think I read off 10 different teams over a 15.
9 or 10 in 15 years, yeah. Yeah.
There's no salary cap.
No.
So, who's doing it better here in terms
football, you don't even need to go through the list. We know the Patriots have a bunch of them in there, and so do the Chiefs.
That's it. It's been dominated by a couple of teams. I think the more rules you put on, the more you centralize the power into a few hands.
I agree with you. So I think what I want here is a floor. And what I'm saying here is this. I don't know what that floor is. I know they said Ohio State spent $20 million on the NIL for their team last year. Whatever it is, we're going to come up with the floor. And if you want to be in the big boy league, you have to meet the NIL spending floor. Because otherwise, you're telling me you don't care about winning. Because the way this is set up right now, the only way you're getting the top players, they got to be getting paid. That's it.
True. And you got to go about doing that, and maybe you overpay a player.
And, Chad and I off air were batting around, well, what's the penalty, right? And he said, what about we take away scholarships? And I said, well, that's counterintuitive because if I'm not spending on the NIL, I certainly don't give a damn about scholarships. So
true.
My theory is more of along the lines of the first year you miss it, we raise your floor 10%. The next year you miss it, now it's 20. So if the minimum was 10 million and you miss it twice, now you're up to 12.5 million you got to spend. You miss it a third time, you're back to we'll call it subdivision for now, for 5 years. It's almost like probation. So, Hey, Arizona State, which I'm not worried. Arizona State will spend the money, but I'm just picking them out. They're on my sheet here. Arizona State didn't make it for the third straight year. Congratulations. You'll be playing Tulane and Wake Forest for the next 5 years.
It's obvious that's where you belong. This has turned into a money thing, whether we like it or not, and we definitely expressed our opinion on it. It's turned into a money thing. And if it takes money to get these top players or good players on your roster, you're going to need to spend the money.
Right. So that's the first rule. If anybody's out there, feel free to comment, but we are going to have a floor in this league. Now, second rule. And I thought about this because I know my friend here grew up playing soccer, and I've started to follow the sport more. I have family members that are big soccer fans. I picked a team a few years ago. I became a Chelsea fan. But in the English Premier League, you've got relegation. But if you really start to dig into it and follow it more, you realize it's the same group of 5 to 6 teams that go back and forth between Premier and the league right below it. What I want is to start this off with when you get admitted to the big boy league, that you're going to be there for the first 3 years. After 3 years, we're going to take the 2 worst teams with a 3-year record. They're going down. And the 2 teams from the subdivision with the best record over that 3-year span, they're coming up. Now, going forward then every year, it's a rolling 3-year. So in year 4, your record from year 2, 3, and 4 get added up. If you're in the bottom 2, you're going down. Someone else is coming up. But remember, when you go down, you're down for 3 years. You've got to establish a record down there to get back up. And when you're up, you at least get 3 years. So if the first year you come up, you go 1-11, you've got 2 more years.
Relegation could be devastating for a program. This is going to be like dog eat dog. My only concern here is we have carefully crafted and put together these divisions.
Yes.
And if, how do we introduce 2 teams coming up neatly into our regionalized division separation that we've done here?
It could
get kind of spooky, right?
It could be spooky. I mean, it could get crazy. Sure, it could. But I mean, how else? I think without relegation in this, you want to give the teams a chance as they get better at that lower division with a chance to come up. And you want to get rid of the guys that are just going to be dogs up here. Nobody, out of 48 teams, throwing 2 out is not a lot. I mean, English Premier has 20 teams, and they kick 2 out, 3 out every year. They kick the bottom 3 out every year.
Soccer uses a point system, which makes it kind of easy to not have 2 teams with the same record, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What happens if at the end of our 3-year period, you have 4 teams with the same record?
We use point differential, so stop getting blown out.
Fair enough. I like it.
I mean, they use goals scored, goal differential in different soccer play. Listen, don't get beat 48-7 when you play Georgia. I mean, try to at least keep...
Hey, Emil.
Yeah.
Here's another part to this that I like.
Yeah.
You remember last season where Penn State scored a late touchdown on Maryland and Mike Loxley and James Franklin had a little bit of a dust-up.
Yeah.
Those late touchdowns might turn into fisticuffs.
Right. Listen.
You might get a general manager or an athletic director hop down on that field and take a swing at a coach. This is fun. I like it.
They wanted to turn this into dog eat dog. Well, they got the 2 dogs here because we're perfect for this.
I like it. College football Hunger Games. Yes. Awesome.
This will be the Hunger Games, a steel cage match, all wrapped up.
No, I like it. You better not get slapped around 70-7. I like it. So far, so good. Emil, what's the next one you got for us?
It works out nicely, okay? And we can talk this out on the air. You're going to get 11 games automatically every year. You're going to play 5 teams in your division, and you're going to rotate the other divisions, just like professional football. So 1 year...
like what I did here with Miami's schedule was everyone in the South Division. Miami played everyone in the South Division, and then they played all the teams in the Mountain Division. How would we go about getting the extra game?
I think we would scramble it using software, and you would just get a random team from another division, just like the NFL is doing now with the 5 interconference games. You play one division in the other conference, and then they have a randomness. I don't know how they...
Chris, it's not random. It's not random. Those extra games are based on where you finished. If you finished first, you're getting a first-place team from another division. That's how they do it. I wouldn't mind if we did that here.
We'll use the same software program, and if you finish 6th in the South Division, you're going to get a 6th-place random team from another division that you're not playing.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
So that's easy.
Part was easy.
Everybody's got 12 games, and they're not garbage games. Perfect, right? Now we go to the next big thing, and this is what a lot of the bleeding hearts out there are going to say. Johnny's got to be able to transfer. Johnny can still transfer. I'll tell you what, he can do it once. He can do it once, and he can play without sitting out.
Once, for whatever reason it is he comes up with, the coach looked at me wrong.
Coach made him cry, whatever.
The coach didn't like my last Instagram post, whatever the case may be.
But after that, if you transfer, it's the old school rule. You're down for a year unless the coach that recruited you, the head coach, is fired or leaves. So, and I'm going to give you credit. This was off air. Chad said this might be good because maybe the ADs will have to think long and hard about just canning people every 2 and 3 years, because that opens up that window for your entire team. And it might lead to longer runways for coaches and more stability in the sport.
Yes, I think we need that. And I think if you haven't played college football or you haven't gone through a situation where your kids played college football and went through a coaching change, you don't really understand what happens there. But it's, it could be unsettling because everything changes. It's a new system. It's a whole new way of doing things. It's all of that process you went through to get recruited in high school of developing a relationship with someone is now out the window because they're gone, and now there's a whole new staff in there, and this, whatever relationship's going to have to get built quick, fast, in a hurry before a next season. So there's a lot there, and I would like to see more stability in college football.
And what I would encourage our listeners is for, everybody's had a job or worked, right? So think about it when a new regime comes in to a company, right? All the relationships that were built are gone, right? They come with their own people. They've got their own cliques or a merger, right? We merge two companies. The company that's going to control the merger is usually they got their CFO, they got their COO, they got their HR person. So that's a lot of what's happening here. Coach comes in with the new system. He's going to have players that he likes better because they fit, he thinks, the system. So, that's the reason you want to be able to give.
Yeah, I mean, we're limiting player movement here, but I think it also helps with coach movement. I think we need more Kirk Ferentz type situations. We need more Kyle Whittingham situations, more Dabo Swinney situations in college football where we've got a guy here for 8, 9, 10, 15 years.
Yes.
And a guy can go 5-7, 7-5 and not lose his job because, hey, he might be 10-2, 11-1 the next 2 years after that. I'd love to see that returned to college football.
By the way, when we're done with the show, I almost feel like one of us should invoice the NCAA. I mean, we've done more work.
I just asked that someone with some clout out here get this to the right people on the right desk. And to be honest, Emil, it's not the NCAA. You got to get this on the desk of someone at ESPN or Fox. That's who runs college football at this
Pretty
point.
much. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've done more work than all of them. So let's get to our next rule. And I'm running out of rules. We don't want to encumber it with too many rules. We'll start to sound like the NFL. But, the next rule, and I want to make sure I didn't miss one here. So bear with me because I think
I think we're there.
My last one is the transfer window. Okay, let's be honest, folks. This last year, we had Penn State's backup quarterback, who was a big part of their offense. They ran a whole sub packages with that kid, was essentially forced to skip the playoff if he wanted to get in the transfer portal to go play quarterback at a different school.
That's insane. We just cannot have that at all.
So what we're doing is it's simple, right? We already know kids are looking around. I mean, in the digital age, you can go look at the campus with a drone. You can get shots and everything. The minute the national championship ends, which is usually like early February till March 15th, you got about 5.5 to 6 weeks. Transfer away, negotiate, do what you got to do. But on March 15th, after that day, we close the portal and it's on the spring ball. No more of this willy-nilly transfer whatever you want. And the spring ball thing, no more transferring after that because these coaches can't have a good spring. They're scared to even do the spring game at a lot of these places, and I don't blame them. They're like, I'm not going to put out tape so a kid can transfer.
The only thing I would say here is that I do like that. Let's not have a transfer portal window open during the playoffs. I think that muddies things up. I think it muddies things up in the postseason, especially if we're going to be doing a postseason NFL style. Because now we're not just talking about bowl games. We're talking about an entire playoff system affected by a player who's just now all of a sudden going to not be available because, this is the situation he's been handed. We don't need kids having to make that kind of a decision. And then, making the decision and now facing the scrutiny of the entire media, including social media. We don't want that. So I like that part, opening it up after the national title game and running it to March 15th. We may need to do something for post-spring football because here's some of what I know. And I try to tell people this all the time. everything that has happened in college football, I was able to forecast because I live here in South Florida and I watch youth and high school football.
Right.
All of this stuff happened before college football, and you just get a way to see. And what happens down here in high school football is coaches will make empty promises to a player for the spring. They'll put him and they'll make him feel during spring football like you're going to be a big part of what we've got going on here, just to keep a kid here. If the coaches know that a window's now closed, we got you locked up, kid. March 15th's passed. We started spring football March 22nd. We've got you for the rest of the year. We can sell you a dream, whatever. And then, boom, fall comes around or whatever the case may be. And now, remember all those plays you thought you were going to get and you're not.
We might be able to work with that because we've kind of handled a lot of the problems that could occur from that with our other rule, because you only get one transfer. So if the coach didn't leave and you've already transferred from, and I'll give you an example only because I follow, and this happens a lot, but this one was really odd. Last year, before the season started, USC had a kid come in from Texas A&M. Defensive tackle, big kid. I think he was a 4-star. You would think USC could really use that kid because they were going into the season having problems defensively the year before. Kid he went to spring, never did anything for USC, ended up starting the year at Auburn. So he went from A&M, hopped to USC, and played the season at Auburn.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So, but we've handled a little bit. I like you. Maybe we can keep that window. We'll have a post-spring 1-month window, because if you've already used your transfer, you're sitting out a year. So you can leave, but you might as well stay in that.
Right. I mean, listen, some of this is you got to just learn how to stick in a situation and work your way out of it. I know kids get taken advantage of. I know this. This does happen. The adults can manipulate the kids, but some of it is, man, just ride through a tough situation. There have been plenty of stories in college football where a kid, it didn't look good. You're in the bottom of that depth chart, or you're not getting along with a coach and things look bleak, and the kid stuck it out and it turned around. Tom Brady being one of those big ones. He tells the story of going into the head coach's office and complaining about only getting 2 reps at the end of a period, and he just turned that into the best reps ever.
And yeah, look, to your point, a lot of people don't realize this, and we bring up baseball because we're fans. Probably the hardest sport to get to pro level is baseball, because there's steps from rookie ball all the way through that could trip you up. And then you get to AAA and you're blocked in an organization that has a really good team, right? But what guys do, I mean, they're 25 years old. They just tear the ball off the cover at AAA and they force a decision. So you're either going to get traded or brought up. Because if I'm hitting 30 homers at AAA, they're not leaving me there if I'm a stud, right?
Sure.
So that's part of how life works. There's going to be situations in life, and part of this is about life. You have to learn that, it's not always going to go your way. It's not always going to be easy, and you might have to stick it out.
Yeah, I want to see us get back to that a little bit some, and this has a little bit of a gentle balance there. Maybe the old system was a little too rigid and allowed a coach to really play with a kid's future. But that one transfer does allow a kid a chance to get up out of there. So if a kid leaves because of whatever, non-coach leaving reason, they're not getting along, system isn't for me, I didn't know what it was, and I leave to go somewhere else. If you're trying to leave that second time, now I think it's kind of you. Now you're the problem, and you're going to need to sit here and fix your problem to get where you need to go. If it's that serious and you got to go and sit out again, that's time for you to really sit back and start thinking about yourself as a person and what I need to fix, because this is my second time having to do this.
And let's look at college football right now. We have more player movement. I mean, if you get right down to it, there's more player movement at big-time college football in the NFL. The NFL, they have contracts. So
sure. No, these kids, that situation you just described with the kid that left A&M to go to USC to play at Auburn's ridiculous. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL has, sure, there's some guys on 1-year deals, but there's a lot of guys that are locked up at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So you literally have more freedom to move about Division I college football than you do in the NFL.
Yeah, and at the end of this, Emil, this is a 48-team league, and as we touched on in our last show when we introduced this, it's no more NCAA. It's no more board of people, mysterious people making this. Do you know anyone on the board at the NCAA? Do you know anyone that works at the NCAA?
I remember was picking the teams at one point. I don't know if she's still doing it. It was Condoleezza Rice because she was famous.
Well, she wasn't even on the NCAA. She's on this college football committee. Yeah. This will have a commissioner who is as well known as a Roger Goodell. You're going to know who that person is. If it's Nick Saban, you're going to know that it's Nick Saban, and Nick Saban is the one pulling the trigger, ultimately making the decisions here on anything that happens. I don't like the mystery of the NCAA. The NCAA has been a boogeyman all my life. Well, who made that decision? Well, who was it that gave that death penalty to SMU, or who was it that took Reggie Bush's Heisman Trophy? I need a name and a face.
That's your next rule is there's going to be a commissioner. Now, if you really want to have some fun, we can make Urban Meyer the commissioner.
Don't think so, man. Yeah, right, sure. But I mean, Nick Saban would be the first guy to come to my mind. Could you think of?
I mean, I tell you, if he was a lot younger, of course, back in the day, I wouldn't mind a Lou Holtz being a commissioner.
Sure, he'd be super no nonsense. I'm trying to think of maybe some other people that could fall into this position. How about Barry Switzer? No, that's just a joke.
I mean, Switzer would be the older version of Urban Meyer. I mean,
I could see. There are a number of people that I think would probably be good people to do this.
Setting rules here. I think we hit the main. You got to have a commissioner. I think we've hit.
I think all these colleges too in this league are going to need to have general managers. Let's take the whole, as funny as this sounds, salary thing off the plate of the coaches. Let that be handled by a general manager.
I think that would happen organically only because in this setup with our rules, you would almost have to have a general manager just to manage the money aspect of it.
I think you will see some longtime coaches move into the general manager's situation and move out of coaching. I think you will see some coaches who were on their way out perhaps try and vie for that commissioner spot, that type of deal. I think you would see that. Again, it'd be funny to see someone like Dabo Swinney going for the Super 48 commissioner, but I think you would, probably see something like that happen. But
we should save this show because I have a feeling, it won't be long before we're hearing something like this. And again, I really hope when they get to this point, because they will. I mean, This is coming. I hope they really consider just tearing it up and saying, we don't need SEC, Big Ten, all this nonsense. Because if they just combine those two leagues, which I've heard talk of, and add a few teams, you're going to have some teams that just can't compete.
Yeah. So, I mean, harsh as this sounds, you're going to have to kick some of those teams out of those conferences because you're not cutting some of these other teams out to include some of these other teams that are already in those conferences just because they're in those conferences. You're not going to kick Clemson and Miami and Florida State out of your new conglomerate because and then have Vanderbilt in there or have Northwestern in there because they were already grandfathered into those conferences. I don't think that's the move to make. I think you need to just tear this whole thing down and then put it back together and do something like this that we've done.
And I was kidding with you. I mean, our thoughtful listener, I was kidding around about values. We appreciate the feedback. And actually, in hearing you out, my retort would be, in that lower division, all those teams you mentioned, how nicely would it, if you don't care about geography, you could build a league and conferences with, say, more academically minded schools like Stanford, Duke, Northwestern, Wake Forest, Vanderbilt, where your commonality is you're holding a high academic standard. Most of those schools aren't overly big public schools or anything. And you could have your conference then where there's pride in winning it. You're playing other like-minded schools, and there's good competition. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a
kind of what they do with the Ivies.
Correct. Yeah, same thing.
And then see if that's good enough to win it all at the end of the year. Maybe you do. Maybe you come out of the brain conference and you're a problem at the end of the year. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think I really do think that people don't look at that what I'm calling a subdivision. It's not like, and there's nothing wrong with that football either, by the way. They play some good football. But you're not Sam Houston State and South Dakota State. You're just in a conference. You're going to know all the teams. I mean, you're going to know, everybody knows who Wake Forest is. Everybody knows who Stanford is. It's not like you're not going to know the teams. Yeah,
and it'd be good to be able to call yourself a champion on top of everything else. So I think that's good. I think we've done good here. Emil, I am going to see what ChatGPT does for us here. And, man, I'll see what kind of schedule you get for your beloved USC.
Yeah, I think next show I'd like to at least go through schedules for USC. I'd like to hear that. And, we do have to start, and I think we owe it to the audience, probably 2 weeks maybe. We'll go through some NFL free agency at that point.
Yeah, things are a little more settled.
It's going to be settled. We could talk about some.
And we'd be heading into, we'd be getting closer to the draft. So stuff to look forward to. And we can look at some lines as to who are projected to be top picks and all of that, since, we do deal with the betting lines in this show.
Chad will tell you at some point in the show, I guarantee you, that whoever we're talking about, he liked better with his old team.
I'm for sure. I promise you that's going to be a part of the discussion. All right, that's it for us. Part 2 of our Super 48 League for college football. I hope you guys appreciated it. We love the comments that we got last time. Feel free to drop some more in there. We appreciate them. And we hope you like the show. Give it a like and subscribe. Also, check out our sponsor, Bovada Sportsbook, the oldest and cleanest, best running sportsbook online. Lines on everything. We're about to head into the Super March Madness here. The NCAA tournament is coming, and there's no better place to get down on the action than at Bovada Sportsbook. I have a link to it down in the description below. Go check out the sponsors, support the show, and do those good things. That's it for us. Until next time, for Emil Calomino, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for looking and watching the Two Chumps Football Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.